So part two, I guess after I stopped recording, like more thoughts came to me and I'm like, oh, I forgot to like outlet that information. Did I forget it? Sometimes I do that. Anyways, okay. So having to do with the chameleon thing and getting to tap into other people's like emotions and thoughts and etc. It's on the opposing end, it's really hard for people to access that stuff in me. Do you ever, like, can you relate to that? Like, it's weird. It's almost like I will not allow access to myself unless like, the opposing party meets a certain criteria, and there has to be a certain level of trust and a certain level of commonalities. And yeah, I guess I'm a hard cookie to crack. I mean, there's certain things I will disclose and a lot of things I will not. I don't know why. Sometimes though, like in my previous recordings, I feel like I'm nothing. And because I take myself out of the equation, I get to like witness and experience everything. Does that make sense? And to be honest, like I'm not really interested. It's a contradiction, and you know we are walking contradictions. I long to find somebody who is really profoundly and sincerely interested in me and wanting to know how I work and understand how I work. But I don't come across them often. I don't think I've really I don't know. Have I come across anyone that has ever been interested? Maybe maybe one or two people. But other than that, have you noticed people like to talk? They like to talk about themselves. They'll just like talk about themselves. And I think that's why we're such good listeners. We're interested in knowing and learning and understanding things, and I think you will agree that you can do that in silence. So a lot of times we practice silence, and that's why we are great listeners. And it's funny, a lot of the times most people aren't interested in our insights because they're too busy exploring and experimenting and figuring out their life, and they just want to be heard, and they want attention, and they don't really want anyone to take the spotlight away from them, and so we allow them to do so. Yeah, but as far as people getting to know me, I don't really want to disclose information to you unless I trust you or I feel some kind of organic connection. And even at that, like, I'm so hesitant. Maybe I don't think I'm insecure. I don't think it's because I'm afraid of getting hurt. I just don't feel, I feel like people need to, how do I say, earn their right to know what I know. Does that make sense? Because it's like, if you disclose, I think you can relate to this, disclose information or advice in unwarranted spaces or times, people get offended. You know, and you may be able to have the insight to see how something's going to play out, but people don't want to hear it. Most people don't want to hear it. And I know for most of my life I've been a people pleaser, and I try to help everyone, you know, help them to prevent, you know, future occurrences that may not be in their best interests, but they don't want to hear it. And you know what? I've learned that it was actually detrimental for me to disclose information prematurely, because you kind of impede and impose on their experience, which is necessary in order to help them grow into knowing. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you can tell a baby, don't touch the stove, it's hot, and the baby doesn't understand. He's like, I don't understand. And you're like, you know, because you've experienced it, you know, because it's purely experiential. And you're like, baby, don't touch the stove. You're going to burn your hand. Baby just does not understand until he actually touches the stove, experiences it, and goes, oh, shit, that's hot. You know what I mean? So even though, like, we have everyone's best interest in mind, sometimes, that's why I said you just got to let things fall apart and then fall together. You need to allow people to fall apart and fall together. I think we try to step in, not only because we have experience in that particular event, but also because we know how it felt and we don't want to feel the pain through them. You know what I mean? Because when they go through it, it's going to be painful, it's going to be uncomfortable, and because we are so empathic, we're going to like tune into that, and it's going to hurt us too. So we try to jump in and prevent it, but it's just causing more distress to everyone in general. It's kind of selfish too, to be honest. So I've been trying to take myself out of the equation and just kind of allow people to be, no matter how uncomfortable it may seem or feel. You know what I mean? Yeah, most people aren't interested in my insights, or they second guess it, and kind of gets draining and disheartening. Sometimes I just don't even want to. I just kind of whatever, you know. I see things, and I'm thinking about just not saying anything. And I know that sounds like a really passive stance, but I mean, maybe that's what is necessary, you know. And then, like my previous recordings, just let people come to you if they are seeking advice, but don't outlet it unless it's necessary. You know, just be quiet. Just practice stillness and calmness and acceptance and silence. Those are noble traits, by the way, and they don't teach us to do that. They teach us to be more go get 'em. Anyhow, also, I've noticed that you already know this stuff. I really don't really like socializing in large groups. I prefer either one-on-one or maybe two-on-one contact. Like I just think it just takes so much energy out of me to process more than 3 people at one time. It's a lot. It's a lot for me to process. It's draining. I don't like doing it. I'm not saying that I'm shying away from the interaction. I am very interested in people. I think people are very interesting. I think everybody has something to teach you, and some of the things they teach you includes knowing your boundaries, knowing your limits, respecting yourself, and, you know, being firm on what you will allow or not allow. And I will not allow myself to go to a social gathering with more than 3 people because it's draining for me. I mean, some people don't have that effect. Like, you know, some people like that. They like the attention, they like the interaction, they like the surface conversation, they get energized by it, they are easily entertained. I beg to differ. That stuff drains me. And I think people have guilt tripped me for most of my life. I'm like, I'm not going to allow anyone to guilt trip me. I know what is best for me. I know what I need. I know what environments I thrive best in, and what kind of interactions I find fulfilling. And I will not let anybody else make me think otherwise. Here on out. Period. You know what I mean? And if they can't respect you, then do you really want to keep these people around in your life? Probably not. So, I mean, just keeping it real without trying to like candy coat it with flowers and rainbows. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all about flowers and rainbows, but I'm also really about being real, and being real with yourself and your needs and what will, you know, make you feel better. You know, you obviously don't want to keep exposing yourself to toxic things or draining environment or draining people, you know? So don't let anybody make you feel bad about that. Don't allow people to make you feel bad about being you. And then, because we don't go, do we? Because we're judgmental. Do we make people feel bad for being them? I don't think so. I mean, maybe a immature INFJ, but as I get older, I just kind of respect the differences, and move it along. That's it. Anyhow, if you learned something cool, if you didn't learn anything cool, blessings to one and all. Amen.